I'm Lorraine Sommerfeld, and this is the Lemonade Car Show. Tonight we're talking about rust control, and as always, we'll be answering all of your car questions. Lemonade is brought to you by OMVIC, that's Ontario's vehicle sales regulator, and we're produced by the Automobile Protection Association. The APA fights for you, the consumer, and provides information and news on all parts of the industry. Visit our website at apa.ca or reach us by phone at 416-204-1444. Joining me today is John Raymond. He's an industry consultant and APA advisor, and Freeman Young, he's the president of KROWN Rust Control. We'll also be taking your calls all evening at 800-968-7836. Before we go to our discussion, we have a gift certificate from KROWN Rust Control tonight for one lucky caller. Visit rogerstv.com to see giveaway rules. All you have to do is call in, get a question on air, and at the end of the night, I'll announce who we're going to send that to, courtesy of Mr. Freeman Young. Welcome to the show, Freeman.
Glad to be here.
I missed you last time I was away, and you were here, and I'm sure it was no fun without me. But
we had a party without you, but it's going to be better tonight.
Thanks for that. Hi, John.
It's always great having Freeman here.
We are going to get to rust control in a second, but we have something really timely that we have to talk about for a couple minutes. It's about recall notices. It's about Dodge. We're going to put up some years and makes and models for people. Do you want to start off?
It's an important topic, actually. Transport Canada has decided that they're going to have some teeth with the manufacturers and said some of the actions of various manufacturers just don't make sense in terms of what they're seeing in terms of quality of vehicles and problems. And one of them is the Dodge Journey from 2009 through 2013, I believe. Mm-hmm. And it involves a power steering line that's failing, of either poor quality or just can't handle the pressure. And that same line is also found in Sebrings and Chrysler 200s. And Chrysler.
And Avengers.
And Ventures.
Okay,
yeah.
We are going to put those up
and
so
Avengers,
people can
correct.
find it. Now the problem is that usually a manufacturer will issue a recall when they know they have a faulty part on something and they'll fix it. Chrysler is resisting that, and I can say that because Transport Canada has issued an advisory that this part is not safe. There could be a problem.
They've had 107 complaints so far, and FCA, which is Chrysler's position, is, well, if the hose actually does not work, no problem, you can manhandle the steering wheel without power steering and pull off to the side of the road. And factually, it may be true, and factually, if you're 80 pounds, it may not be true.
Well, and factually, how many people have tried Armstrong steering that are younger than I am? Like almost nobody, so that is an absolute non-answer.
So what actually Transport Canada has asked is asked the public to comment on this, not only the Chrysler situation right now, but recalls in general. And they've asked the public to write in or email in. If you go to the Facebook page of the APA, there's a heading in there that shows you how you could contact Transport Canada and put your comment in and saying, you know, we want Transport Canada to protect us, and we feel that not only this Chrysler action, but other ones are important to all Canadians.
Okay, now what's important is that the government has put the onus back on the consumers to say that they want this looked at. It's kind of mealy-mouth and weasel word and wishy-washy, and it's making me a little bit upset because we've given ourselves the ability to do this, and then the government is abdicating actually doing it. They're saying to the consumer, you have to let us know you want us to do this. So that email address we're putting up that you can also access through APA's Facebook site.
Correct.
You have to do this by the 29th, which is tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes.
Tomorrow. So we're running out of time. If you have one of those vehicles that we're flashing up there, please, please, please go to the APA site, flip a note into Transport Canada to say, yes, I want this looked at, I want this covered. This
and unfortunately, there have been a history of these kind of things with Chrysler and other manufacturers where one of them was a spare tire that would fall out the back of the car, and they said, well, didn't affect the occupants that were driving, but how about the people behind?
Yeah. So anyway, so tomorrow, if you have one of those, Sebring, Avenger, Dodge Journey,
Chrysler 200.
Chrysler 200 that are in those years that we're putting up, please go to that website and let them know, or go to the APA site.
Or even call us if they have a question.
Okay.
Call us and we'll immediately direct them to the right place.
Okay, good. So that's the housekeeping for tonight.
Correct.
All right, now we can move on to rust. Actually, a little bit more housekeeping. KROWN sponsors this show.
Yes.
Thank you. I've been using KROWN Rust Control since long before I even knew you were around, before I knew this show existed. Sometimes people say, isn't it a conflict that you're sitting here and we're talking about rust protection? You know more about rust protection than almost anybody I've ever spoken to, because you've been in the business since a long time. We'll put it that way.
I had an arc when I got out at it.
An arc, yeah. So to anyone wondering why he's here because he knows stuff, which is really good. And yes, I acknowledge they do sponsor this show, but you know what? I would still want you here even if you didn't. So a lot of people think rust control happens in the fall. Tell us why now is just as good a time as any.
It's probably a better time, Lorraine, now. I mean, any time, of course. We say if your vehicle's not protected, you should protect it. But the truth of the matter is the highest time for corrosion in Canada is the spring of the year. And the reason is the extreme temperature differentials. You get that hot sunlight in the daytime, and the car will warm right up, and all the moisture that's in the car and all the salt that's collected from the roads, it becomes active and actually starts to attack the vehicle. Then at night it cools down, and of course the moisture kind of goes back and settles into the seams and crevices, and then the next day it gets hot again. So all the road salts, the magnesium chlorides and the sodium chlorides, and they're putting them on the roads now with actually almost like glue, like beet juice, things like that. It's sticky, sticks to the car, gets nice and warm. So spring, really, if you're going to have a problem, this is the time of the year you'll usually see those problems. See little buds coming up around the wheel wells, bottom of the doors, that kind of stuff.
And the proof is looking at a used car. Mm-hmm. And a car that's 5, 6, 10 years old, a car that's sprayed, and a car that's not. You could see it with your own eyes quickly, which is better.
Now, there's a lot of different kinds of rust proofing and rust control, and frequently we lump them all into one category, and people aren't quite sure what's going on. I'm going to let you describe the various kinds.
Sure.
The one I can't stand is that electronic box that they put in a car, and I'll say it because you guys don't have to. It's a load of crap, and they sell it. They test this on submarines and bridges, so if you're going to be using your car underwater all the time, then go for it. But they'll charge you like $800 at a dealership, and dealers can yell at me all they want. You know what? You know it's nonsense to put this electronic box. It doesn't do what it says it's going to do. The science isn't even out. The science has proved it's crap. So we're not going to talk about electronic boxes.
And the APA strongly recommends that you don't make that purchase choice. It clearly doesn't
That's
work.
a nice way of saying it's crap. Okay. Well, I hate seeing people get ripped off because they get feared into a corner and thinking, oh, I have to do this and this makes sense. And, this doesn't coat my car in all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, you're right, because it's not doing anything. That's why it's not doing it. So tell us the difference between rust proofing and rust protection and drip.
So I think generally people understand the old concept of what we used to call undercoating. So you'd put a heavy material on the underside of a vehicle. Might be a resin material, might be a tar-based material, so it used to be black sometimes. And that's kind of changed. You don't see a lot of that. There's still a little bit of it, but you don't see a lot of that today. Now it's more what we call dripless oils. It's like a waxy material, and they'll put that on the underside of cars and inside doors and so forth. And that's one type of rust control product that's used. We feel the challenge with it is getting it into the areas where the real problems are, like in the tight parts of the seams, spot weld areas. And of course, you can't treat the electrical system, which is an intricate part. Corrosion that takes place in your vehicle on the electrical side now is costing people thousands of dollars in repairs and so forth.
And do they just spray that on underneath? It's undercoating, so it's just from the
usually
underside?
Just on the underside, but some will put it, like you don't want to talk badly about your industry, but I've noticed what they will tend to do. They'll put it on the inside of your fenders, like when you open your hood, you can see this nice shiny goop on the inside of the fenders. They're plastic, mind you, but it's there, and you can see it. And sometimes they'll put it just on the bottom edge of the door on the inside, so if you look, it looks like the door is done, and then they'll do the undersides. But they quite often won't go inside the doors and that because they're worried about getting this material on moving mechanisms, electric locks, electric windows, and that, where normally a product that's able to treat those and lubricate them is good. If you get something that's thick and heavy, it'll actually keep them from moving properly, so they limit where they put it.
Okay, when I buy a new car, I've got rust protection, like it says that there's warranty, and actually I've got less than a minute to get into this, but isn't that good enough?
Well, it depends. Do you really want to keep the vehicle for any length of time?
Okay, so if I'm leasing it for 4 years, should I just rest on that?
If you don't care about the vehicle, you can probably get by with 4 years and not see a lot of trouble, Lorraine, realistically.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know I've also seen people upsold when they are leasing a vehicle, and they're upsold on that, and I'm like, oh, you're not going to be into the trouble years, so
But will you keep it after the lease?
Well,
because a lot of people do.
Yeah, and some people don't think they're going to, and then they end up doing a buyout. So, so you have to make that call before you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just the day-to-day cost of running the vehicle. And when you return it, what's the value on the vehicle after 4 years if it doesn't look as good as it should? Are you going to wind up taking money out of your pocket to end off the lease, sort of thing? So it's a variety of things to think about.
Okay. The Lemonade Car Show brought to you by OMVIC, Ontario's motor vehicle sales regulator, returns after this short break. When we come back, we'll be taking your calls 800-968-7836.